Hi, I'm your host, Larissa Worstiak. Through this podcast, I aim to empower and inspire jewelry entrepreneurs and innovators so they can thrive by doing what they love. I'm passionate about digital marketing for jewelry brands, and I'm excited to share my passion with you. This is episode 121, and today I'm going to be sharing an interview with Ama McKinley, the founder of Ilium Wing. I actually first digitally met Ama through Clubhouse because she's one of the founders of a weekly Clubhouse room called The Atelier, which was made for jewelers who want to come together and share their experiences in the industry. Ama McKinley began making waist jewelry in 2010 after creating her first strands for herself and a few friends, inspired by the sacred, powerful, and divine symbolism of waist jewelry to uphold femininity, fertility, protection, and spirituality. Ama followed her calling to reawaken the energy of this century-old tradition of adornment and healing. And if you don't know about waist jewelry and you're new to this, she'll give you a little bit of background in the episode, so definitely keep listening. Her use of natural materials such as bone, beads, precious metals, and gemstones preserves the origins of this ancient talisman, while her designs add a modern, elevated perspective. She then ended up founding Ilium Wing in 2019. In this episode, I talked to Ama about topics like branding and setting your jewelry brand apart in a crowded marketplace, marketing with a focus on genuine engagement and community building, the power of emerging platforms like Clubhouse, and tips for executing an on-brand lifestyle photo shoot for your jewelry brand. It was so fun to talk to Ama, and I really hope you enjoy this conversation. I do want to remind you if you want to ask a question for an upcoming episode, you can visit joyjoya.com/ask. You can be anonymous. I love getting questions, and then I'll do my best to answer that question on a future episode. But before we get to the interview, I want to share some marketing related news and insights from the past week that caught my attention. So let's talk about Facebook Shops. Have you ever thought about using Facebook Shops maybe as a showroom for your jewelry brand and products instead of being focused on conversions? So Facebook Shops can actually be used as a top of funnel tool to drive brand awareness. While you may not end up getting sales directly from Facebook, it's a good first step for connecting with customers, especially if they haven't found you through your e-commerce website first. So they can kind of start browsing your products, use Facebook Shops as a digital catalog. It's always worth a try because of the low barrier to entry. And it's a good way to start experimenting with social selling, which is all about building relationships and making your prospective customers' life easier. As you may already know, video content is huge right now for engagement. YouTube is actually testing a feature right now that will hopefully provide consumers with a new way to shop, and it will provide YouTube influencers with an easy way to showcase products that they mention in their videos, like jewelry or fashion. So this product detection feature will actually allow viewers of the video to see more information about all the products mentioned without having to click any links in the description. So it makes shopping super easy, kind of like the checkout product tagging feature on Instagram. This could potentially make it easier for consumers to buy items from their favorite influencers when they're recommended, and it's a chance for brands like yours to reach new audiences on YouTube. And lastly, Anthropologie is currently testing an immersive and interactive digital catalog on Pinterest. So they're aiming to convert Pinterest users into shoppers to inspire people to buy. It really provides a link between the visual search aspect of Pinterest and shopping. A lot of brands, in addition to Anthropologie, are using Pinterest to help turn pinners' inspiration into reality by making products easier to find and shop for and have more shoppable pins all across Pinterest. How does a digital catalog differ from print? Well, it allows people to collect and share their images for inspiration before making a purchase. Kind of how, like, back in the day, people might actually cut out pictures from magazines and catalogs and then create mood and inspiration boards. This is definitely a digital way to do it and adds another layer of functionality to it because it's super easy to shop right from those inspiration images. Pinterest is super great for driving traffic and sales, and pins help people find more information about products they're looking to buy. If you want to get the links to the articles I share in this segment of the podcast, you can sign up for my email newsletter by visiting joyjoya.com/sign up, and you'll get a digest with the links every time a new episode drops. All right, let's get to my interview with Ama. Tell me a little bit about your background in the jewelry industry. How did you come into this space?
Sure. And thank you so much for having me here. Let me just start with that.
Yeah,
I'm really
you're
excited to
welcome.
talk
I'm
to you
happy to
and
have you.
honored. Thank you. Thank you. So my background in jewelry is, I guess, meandering, but the short version is that, like a lot of people, I started playing with beads to make jewelry. As a little girl, that was my favorite pastime. As I became a young woman, I learned that a lot of women and girls of African descent, from, West Africa and East Africa and African Americans and throughout the Caribbean, a lot of women wear waist beads, waist jewelry. And oftentimes waist beads are worn underneath the clothes, and they're worn for a lot of different reasons, whether it's just, sensuality or fertility or to track weight loss and gain. And there's just these very subcultural reasons that, women are wearing these underclothes adornments. So I started to make them myself when I was in my 20s and wear them myself and was very excited. And I had this woman ask me, I remember this was 2013. She asked me if I would make some waist beads for her. And she wanted these waist beads to represent the goddess Yemaya, who is a West African goddess of the ocean. And so I made some beads for her in this pattern and used some semi-precious stones. And I didn't see her again for a year after I gave her the gemstone. And she said, I wore your beads one time, Ama, and it was that day that I became pregnant. And I was freaked out because I just thought that I was making pretty things. So it was then that I realized, I said, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. Like, women have been doing this and wearing them for hundreds and thousands of years. There might be something to this. So that's how it started. When I decided to go full speed into, preparing for and building my brand, Ilium Wing, I studied as a bench jeweler for about a year. It also worked at retail stores for jewelry and, learning how to grade diamonds and common jewelry, jewelry repair that need to be made, and just got really hungry for whatever I could to be around these pieces. So yeah, did a lot of, waxing and molding and all of those things and all of that as I was building Ilium and the structure. And then that was 2019 and 2020, I went full force into building the brand and the business side of things and making my prototypes, and it's gone on from there.
I love that story. How did you first get introduced to waist beads? Was it something that you were always around growing up, or was there a moment where you first learned about them?
That's a really good question. So they were not around when I was growing up. I did not know about that. I have friends who have worn them since children. One of my friends from Ghana, she says her aunt will get her a new strand every day on her birthday since she's been a little girl. But I didn't know until I was actually getting ready to finish graduate school. A lot of women in my community there wore them. There was an older woman who introduced me to gemstones and, semi-precious stones and crystals. And, I started to wear those as jewelry with an understanding for the first time around that time. And then I don't know why I made that first strand for myself. I don't know if someone instructed me or what it was, but that's when I got into it. Was right around the same time that I started paying attention to gemstones, and it's just I've never given it up since then.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love it. So you
Thank
talked a
you.
little bit about Ilium Wing. Was there a moment where you really knew like this had to be a business versus just a hobby? Was it because that
Mm.
woman kind of gave you that feedback, or was it something else that inspired you to move forward?
So Ilium Wing didn't come until many years later. So Ilium Wing, this making waist beads started in 2010. Ilium Wing did not become conceived as a business, as a brand until 2009. So 9 years, going on 10 years later. Um, when I left corporate America and was trying to figure out what am I going to do? What am I'm completely associated with this part of my brain. What am I going to do? And my boyfriend at the time, was very down at the time, and he decided he wanted to get me a random gift. And that random gift was a Marco Bichigo bracelet. And it was absolutely gorgeous. And I just kept staring at it because I'm like, should I be wearing this right now, or should I be wearing an evening gown? Because like I have on like just a t-shirt, and like my skin's dry, and like my hair's not done, but I'm wearing this most beautiful, immaculate bracelet. And it was such a dichotomy for me at the time to wear something so beautiful and not be prepared for it or deserving of it, quote unquote. And I just was staring at it for a couple of hours, and he said, this reminds me a lot of the waist beads that you used to make. And if that's something, I know how happy it made you, and if that's something you wanted to pursue, then I would support you. That was the conception of Ilium Wing, because I realized that no one was making these pieces out of precious metals and gemstones. Primarily, waist beads are made with thread and glass beads. And I said, if I can figure out a way to make thread with gold, if I can figure out how to do this and really elevate this art, then there might be possibility there. One of my first jewelry fabrication teachers here in Atlanta, she was showing me the book from the Met Gala's, not Met Gala, the Met collection of jewelry. And in it, there were waist beads. They called them girdles back then, but waist beads of a princess, one of the pharaoh's daughters from the Middle Kingdom. And there were these lion heads that had been casted, and they were hollow, and they had little gold ball bearings inside, and then the beads were amethyst and gold. And so basically she would wear these around the Egyptian palace, and they would ring. And I was like, oh, so you're telling me that what I imagined making already exists. And that was the spark for me. It started with this bracelet, then it went all the way back to this example in ancient times. And I was like, oh, what I want to do is not so far-fetched. And it's been off from there, from idea conception to, okay, now how do I turn this into a business, and how do I turn this into a brand?
Wow. I have to make a random comment. That bracelet sounds
I
like
love
such a
random.
lovely gift. I would love a bracelet like that. But I also
Very,
love,
very good gift.
yeah, I love that it had this extra layer of like making you think and inspiring you, and not just being like a beautiful object. And I think jewelry can be
Yeah,
so amazing in that way. So
absolutely.
would you say, you were talking about how you realized that nothing really existed. There was no other waist bead brand making them with like precious gemstones and metals. Would you
Mm-hmm.
say that is the primary thing that differentiates your brand in the marketplace, or are there other layers to that also?
That's a good question. So absolutely the primary, the foremost thing is, how can I make the most beautiful, immaculate jewelry possible? Because I don't see that example at all. And I actually spent time researching like what were the first luxury entrants into different categories. So I think like Louis Vuitton was one of those way back when. Everybody had luggage, but no one had this level of luggage. and different, I think that Cadillac was the first luxury car maker or car brand in the US. So that's what I started to be inspired by was, we can do better and I can do better. Let me be the one that can elevate this art. Beyond that, and this gets into like the brand intention, is that I think so highly of women. I think so highly of the feminine that for me to make the most beautiful pieces that I can, which are inherently feminine, they're worn on the waist, they adorn the hips, then why wouldn't I make something as immaculate as I can for this very special and intimate feminine space? And so everything is born out of, what is the reason for opulence? How can opulence be, like it was for me with the Marco Bichigo bracelet. Like I can be opulent even if like I haven't washed my hair in a while. Like it doesn't have to be a worthiness thing. And so jewelry has been a method of teaching for me. And so even through building of the brand, whether someone buys pieces or they see the pieces worn, to start that conversation of, what is opulence? And maybe there doesn't have to be a level of worthiness to take part in that.
I think that probably has a lot more significance too in pandemic times when everyone's at home and like wearing sweatpants and doesn't have opportunity to go out and dress up, and jewelry is such an easy way to still like celebrate that and have that feeling.
Yeah. You talk about the pandemic and made me think of, again, as I was building this, how did purchasing habits and like consumer habits change during the Great Recession? And what did the recession then create? So before the recession, you had like a lot of the juicy couture and the bright colors and the, bedazzlers. And then the recession came and things became, as far as brands, a lot quieter and better quality. So people still, those who were able to still wanted to experience luxury, but it became insular. And there also was a facet of that, people who wanted to share, because then we had the sharing economy that came out of that as well, which came, people want to know, what are your values? How are you connected to people? How are you giving back? So much came out of that time. And we are, there's a drastic shift happening right now as well. And so I am considering or, taking the bet that making beautiful things can help to counter some of the most challenging times in our history.
Absolutely. Did you find with Ilium Wing, speaking of like the sharing economy, that you had to or did change your messaging at all to kind of appeal to more of that, what the customer wants?
I think that reminds me of Kendra Scott. Kendra Scott did not open her first store until 2008 in New York City. So everything had just crashed. And she says, we're going to do this or we're not. So for me, almost in that vein, I'm starting while everything is already zeroed out in so many ways. The scale has been restarted. So I have not had to change messaging. The branding has been built through this time. It's been built through looking and seeing what messages are missing, what's the possibility for messaging, and being able to create from there within this space.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I like that you brought up the example of Kendra Scott. I actually didn't realize that she launched her first brick and mortar in 2008. That is a tough challenge. But look at her, I think some of the brands that last are the ones that are built in the most challenging times in many cases.
And a lot of them, over the time of building, just researching, just researching and, saying, this has been done before, and being willing to gamble. And it has been a gamble to not just do this, but then to also dare to create something that I've never seen and something that's not out there, to be a new category entrant. And I'm gonna bet on myself, and it's pretty fun. I'll say that I'm having a lot of fun.
So I was creeping a little bit on your LinkedIn profile, and I noticed that you do have a ton of job experience, career experience in branding and marketing. Tell me more about that and how it informs what you do with your brand.
Absolutely. So, I've heard so often that you don't know what or how what you do will make sense later. And I had no clue that any of this could bubble up into something. I've had a very meandering career. I think, like, quote unquote, most millennials, as a millennial, I'll just take it. But I started grad school, I started getting my MBA or studying for my MBA the fall of 2008. So that first semester, I'm getting my MBA and the entire business world crashes. So I'm like, oh, well, this is not how anybody expected this to go. But, before that, I'd had 3 internships in undergrad. The first was in Spain. The third was in Mozambique. Then my first job after graduate school was working in diversity, equity, and inclusion for recruiting and professional development. So I entered the workforce with a multinational, multicultural, diversity, equity, inclusion mindset that came along with my education. So that's how I came into the world, not intending, but I was just always drawn to culture and language and people and travel. And so that's how I stepped in. Marketing was, what I always wanted to do, marketing and advertising. I ended up doing a lot of work at first with social media and developing content and copywriting and scheduling and all of these things. I ended up blogging because I just like to write, and it was catharsis. Never was wanting to sell ad placements, and that made my head hurt. I just like to write so I could get it out. Ended up, learning a lot about metrics and data, and I was never, they're a part of the job, but if I'm honest, a lot of that stuff was very difficult to learn how to read the machine and always have to feed the machine and engagement and click rates. And so I knew enough to have the conversation for all these little pieces. I ended up at a large advertising firm, one of the largest in the country. And while I was there, ended up working on brand strategy. I became a brand strategist. So then having to build the qualitative and quantitative case to support the creative ideas. And also while there, I got the opportunity to see how much does it take to make something look amazing. And never seen budgets like this before, and didn't know how many people were involved in these decisions. And we have to have 6 internals to go over creative. I mean, just so much time. So by the time that ended, within 3 or 4 weeks, I was wearing this Marco Bichigo bracelet and had the opportunity to pursue it. So as I've built Ilium, all of these things have come into place or into play, even if it's just a mentality to think about it or consider it. Most of these things I am not good at. I am not. But I do know how to identify when someone is. And so I've pulled in with my very limited financial resources. But with, I've just committed to bringing in people who are better at these things than me so that I can make what I'm doing look as the best possible to support the work that I intend, the work that I'm releasing in the world. So I couldn't dare say I'm going to be the first entrant and make something that is not the best it can ever be. So that's been my intention, but that's how my career has all added up into where I am now.
I think you make such a good point where you say, I'm not good at this stuff. I'm sure you're a little good at this stuff, but I think it's important for small business owners to at least like understand the moving parts or understand like what makes something look good or what it takes to make something look good. Because like you're saying, if not, you don't know who to bring in. You don't know how many resources it can take to get from point A to point B. So I think it's kind of nice that you have that experience so that at least you know who you need to tap in order to like help you fulfill your vision. So I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Well, it's been fortunate, but also I have tried so often on my own to do these things. So I've gotten a logo made on Upwork. I've gotten, Fiverr, and I've done these things. I've built my own website on, I think I built my first website in 2009 on Wix. I mean, it looked horrible, but I had to figure out what this stuff was. I build a couple of different sites and trying to brand myself and do these things on Squarespace years later with the best that I could, writing according to the best that I could, trying to figure out how to brand myself the best that I could on Instagram. Why can I not get followers? Why am I not an influencer yet? Why do I only have 20 likes? Why? Okay, I need a hashtag strategy. Okay, I need all of these things. So that when I say I'm not good, I'm like, it all would give me a headache. But trying to manage it all. But what I have learned is that the failing has allowed me to say, okay, so not only am I not this good at it, it also gives me a headache. But there's somebody who is good at this and is financially accessible to me. I've never hired a firm for anything. I don't have firm hiring money. No. But I do know that I went to school with a girl who majored in photography, and then she ended up going to like advertising school, and we're friends, and she wants to help with this. Oh, well, you know what? I need models. So I'm going to ask all of my girlfriends, please come model. And you know what? I do not have money to give you, but we're going to have music, we're going to have food, and we're going to dance. So I've just brought in what I could. And that's really what I believe in, is that I have failed so many times trying to create moving parts that I was like, I've got to pull in people who are better at this than me.
Makes so much sense.
That's been one of the guiding. Yeah.
I can totally relate. Also, I finished grad school in 2009 and kind of was thrown into the same world you were. So when you were talking, I was like, wow, what a crazy ride and journey. It's like, I think a lot of millennials can relate to that, entering the world in that time.
I mean, nothing has been the same. And so like hearing for so long, there's been so much flack against millennials don't want to But we entered into the world while the world we had gone to school for immediately didn't exist anymore.
Absolutely. It's very true. Yep.
And the great promise of all these things, like we didn't have access to those things. So that's why we had to start sharing houses and start sharing cars.
Yeah, it's true.
So we've been innovative all along because we've just been trying to make it work. And it's amazing, this entrepreneurial spirit is not just because everybody wants to be Mark Zuckerberg, but because we're all trying to use our skills in a new world with new tools, a new economy, and new possibility. Because if we don't, we might not have much.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So,
I
yeah.
100% think I wouldn't be here today with you doing this podcast and having my business if I didn't enter the world at the time that I did, because I have had to be a hustler due to the
Yes.
circumstances since 2009.
Due to the circumstances, absolutely. If I had not lost my job in advertising, I would have never gone so pedal to the metal with Ilium. No way in the world. No way. I was on a track. For better or for worse, I was on a track. So the circumstances, that opportunity ending is directly correlated to me doing Ilium. And then I always say, 2020 is when the apocalypse came and the world ended. If last year hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been able to go so hard on this either. I was like, well, I don't have much else. I think that given the opportunity and given the privilege to go for it, like, I've got to do it now.
Yep.
So that's what I've ended up coming to a number of times in my career, is like, I don't have much else. Like, failure is already here. Like, I don't have to have a fear of failure. Like, it's all around. Let's just do it. And so far, it's kind of working out.
I like that attitude. I love it. It's great.
I'll let y'all know how it goes. That's
So Ama, I digitally met you or discovered you on Clubhouse because you have the atelier group that you founded it, you run it once a week.
I did. Yes.
So tell me more about this in case people aren't familiar with it.
Got it. So for those who may not know or have heard about this thing called Clubhouse, Clubhouse is the newest social media platform that is purely audio. It's all just conversation. Now, when I was working in advertising, I remember my boss, God bless him, he said that I always wanted to have a face-to-face meeting because I like to talk to people. That's how I understand, and that's just what I do. I like to talk to people so we can understand and be on the same page. I'm a very tribal woman. I'm just a campfire, tell stories kind of woman. Okay. So Clubhouse works for me because it's easier for me to talk than it is to type or write all the time. Typing captions and making sure it doesn't go over characters. No, let's just have a conversation. So anyway, Clubhouse is just all audio. And there are some people who use it like listening to a podcast, and they just, are, passive or active listeners. And sometimes you can raise your hand and ask questions and participate or be on the quote unquote main stage and just join the conversation. I always like to explain Clubhouse to people as, imagine walking through a coffee shop and you see different tables and people are talking about things, and you can decide to lean over and see what they're talking about, or you can pull up a chair. That's Clubhouse for me. So I joined, I was invited. You do have to be invited. iPhone only, so Android people, step it up. But I was invited. I joined Clubhouse, was having an amazing time. Like, oh my God, I'm talking to strangers. This is great. And started looking for jewelers. Could not find a jewelry club, a jeweler, a jewelry group. Could not. I met someone on Clubhouse. We talked about whatever. The next day I got on Clubhouse and this person said, hey, Ama, I met another jeweler. You should link with him. His name is such and such. Great. Thanks for thinking of me, random person that I've never met in real life. Met him. Hey, let's start a group for jewelers. Okay, great, because I know one person. Awesome. I'll meet y'all. I'll link with you on Instagram. So, and then there were 3. So then what I decided to do is, well, I've been following all of these jewelers on Instagram that I have loved and stand for months and years. Let me just try something. I started sending them DMs, and they responded, And they were like, I would absolutely love to join. And then I fainted. And then I checked my phone again. And then I fainted again because I'm so new at this. And these are people that I have in a lot of ways like idolized. And they wanted to be a part of the conversation too. So that's how it started, is that I just reached out. I was looking for people. And everyone was like, oh my God, I was looking for jewelers too. And no one voted on a name. Like I just, the atelier, because I always liked that name, the atelier, you know. Well, that just sounds awesome. Let's all learn French. And so that was it. It was unorganized. The first time we met, we were just all so excited to, you know, yell across the world. And it's like Horton Hears a Who. We are here. But yeah, so we just would, you know, meet on Instagram and, you know, a little chat, and someone might invite someone else who they think would be good. And then I said, well, what do we want to talk about? We're here, now what? So, you know, folks saying, well, let's talk about sustainability and okay, well, let's talk about, and so I just said, okay, so I made a Google sheet. All of this is ad hoc, everything. Hey, you guys, if you got something you want to talk about or think you could lead, why don't you put in this Google sheet? We now have, if we meet every Friday, we now have enough programming to get us through August.
Wow, amazing.
Of just conversations that we want to have, and who can we invite, and who do you know? And just started from curiosity running my mouth and a Google sheet. And it's been fruitful, not just because of camaraderie and having new peership, but I've also gotten mentorship out of it from, you know, just people, you know, in the group know who I am now. And I've had people reach out in the group, and, you know, people who are just been listeners, even you reached out as well, just to want to connect. And so it's done these things for my career in just a short amount of time. And I'm like, I just didn't know. So it's been super valuable because it's all just conversations. It's not trying to be an influencer and monetize and have my brand. It's just, I think that's why like the word networking freaks a lot of people out, because you think you have to go and try to get something. And I think that's the same as branding. Sometimes it's sales. You think branding is sales. But I look at branding and network as like the relationship.
Yeah.
What do you have to offer? What do you have to say? And if you don't have anything to say, then how can you affirm and listen? And so that's what I've been getting out of Clubhouse. And it's been super valuable to me. Absolutely.
I love it. I think I've been to like 3 or 4 of them, and the last one with Danielle from Gem Gossip. And I always look at who else is in the room, and I'm so impressed by like these big name designers that I'm like, wow, this is like a dream team of people in this room. I am loving this.
Absolutely. So like, you know, one of them is Lorraine West.
Yep.
You know, hey Lorraine, how's it going? Congrats on your placement in Essence magazine. And she's like, oh my God, thank you so much. It's just been so overwhelming because I've had so many orders. And I'm just like, so I am so standing for your success right now. Like, let's talk about success. Let's talk about defining success. Let's talk about when success can be overwhelming. Like, so it's a completely different conversation. Or I remember I reached out to Polly Whale. I just thought Polly Whale, like it was just like a brand account. I didn't expect it to be her phone to be in her pocket. And then she sees the message and she says, yes, I'll join. Oh, I fainted and I just died.
I know. It's like being starstruck.
I've been so stuck.
That's so cool.
I mean, just amazing people who do amazing work that just want to chat, that are just, because humans need humans. So it has been just amazing organic conversation, and with people from all over, you know, every facet, to not be, you know, be cliche, but every facet of this industry. whether it's sustainability or whether it's designers or whether they are gem sourcers or whatever they may do. It's amazing. And it's super educational for me because I'm still just 2 years into this industry.
Yeah.
So it definitely puts me in the right company, and it's also creating other opportunities for me.
Yeah. I think it's such a good lesson in branding what you've done, whether you realize it or not or intentionally did it, but like not being, I mean, it takes guts to just start something and then like be DMing people and asking to join, even when you're not sure about the future of it. Like you took a bold step that I think what holds a lot of jewelry brands back in their marketing is they're just checking off the boxes of like what other people are doing. Like, okay, I got my Instagram check. Like I did my Pinterest check. I did this, but like they're not thinking about how they can step out on the ledge a little bit and take a risk and maybe try something new without necessarily an agenda or without knowing like this will guarantee me X results, but like just trying different stuff.
Yep. There, I built a structure for Ilium. If someone goes on right now and wants to buy a piece, boom, 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 through the cart, all of that stuff, it's there, which in and of itself is very fortunate because I was able to pull on other people to help build these things. But I have been at this now for 2 years into this year, and I am just now getting my first sale. I could not tell you how much fun I am having. I am having so much fun. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I would go through all of this and just be getting and I would, like back then I would have freaked out or I might not have done it. So it has been a very rich and valuable experience. And the ROI is not just, a balance sheet. It is what I'm able to learn and do just because of the innocent desire to connect is doing more for my brand than the Instagram courses that I've bought and the LinkedIn posts that I've made and the Facebook and Instagram ads and Google ads that I've run that are just, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Like just the innocent connecting with humans has done more. And so with that, this first piece that I'm making came from me, writing a comment on the picture of a woman that I really admire and look up to. She posted about the jewelry she was wearing and she tagged the jewelers. And then I said, so who's making your waist beads? Because I know a company who makes them in 14 karat gold. She was, what? What are you? What? She's, a woman of African descent. What are you talking? I say, yeah, they're making them with gemstones and diamonds and bone. And yeah, they're amazing because I built the company. And she was like, what? So now I could have never imagined someone of her caliber being my first client by any means. And that was just Instagram comment. I still don't get any engagement on my business page. It's set up, it's gorgeous, but everyone always says like that organic engagement. Okay, it just means talking to people. It just means having conversations, and it's been 100,000% valuable. And it's getting this ball rolling. So I'm very, very thankful for both.
Yeah, those are all such good reminders, I think, to the people listening that at the end of the day, it is about connecting with people. I think that's so true.
It's true. It's so true. It's so true. And it's easy to forget, but it's absolutely about the people.
Yeah. So one thing I did notice about your brand that I really love is the lifestyle photography. I know you kind of mentioned a little earlier, you have photography friends and you are hiring experts to do this for you. But one thing I find with clients I work with is getting that photo shoot that really represents like what they stand for, what they're trying to communicate is one of the hardest things to do. So Do you have any tips? Have you learned anything along the way? Can you share anything with our listeners about that?
Yes. So the photo shoot, like it still makes me so happy to think about it and look at the pictures and the behind the scene videos from that day, because like that feeling, that energy that came out is the background, what came out in the pictures. Um, the photographer, how did I find the photographer? I don't know. And she was not, a squeaky kind of editorial Vogue photographer. Like people think I need a professional, that it means it's inaccessible.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of us millennials, we just having to hustle and come up with the skills. So there's the photographer, and her space was very accessible financially. Still good, but accessible. The models were my girlfriends. I knew the look that I wanted. I knew I wanted all shades and colors and sizes. That was very important to me. So I asked my girlfriend, girl, come with your face and your hair done, because I don't have a makeup budget. So just put your face on and show up. One of the investments that I did make that I almost forgot about is that I decided to hire a stylist. I have never worked with a stylist ever until that shoot. But I had to take, my headshots for the website as well and the models. And I was like, you know what? Am I really about to go to TJ Maxx and Nordstrom Rack to try to get clothes? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know people's sizes. I'm gonna, what? I think I just need somebody to do this. Who do I know that does this? And I had a friend who had a boyfriend who was a stylist. And he couldn't do it, but he knew he had a stylist that was apprenticing under him. Wonderful. She was so good. I was like, oh, this is why people hire stylists. She's making mood boards. I would have never, ever made it. I would have just been at TJ Maxx, just trying to get stuff because I don't know what I'm doing. So that was a super valuable investment into the shoot. And then what else? I made a playlist on Spotify so that we could have the mood and, going in the background. But, these are things that I never thought about. I think that for anyone who has never done this and tries to think, well, what would help? Look at an editorial in a magazine and see the team that is built to do this. It's not just a photographer, but you also have hair and makeup. You have someone doing the nails. You have the stylist assistant. And it can make your head spin. But the point is that all of these things are accessible, and it's not just Vogue. One of the things that I have learned over the years, and part of this is, time that I've spent not just in college, but as a recruiter and working with college students and just throughout my life, look for talent that is in school or just coming out, because they have been trained on the most current equipment. They need to build a portfolio. They are eager to work. I hired an interior decorator once, and she had just graduated from interior design school. She was so happy. She was so happy to do the work. And I could go get stuff from World Market instead of having to go to like Ethan Allen. It's so accessible and it's so possible. And that's made all the difference for me, is to look and see what does it take to make something amazing, and then figure out how I can afford amazing. And that's everything that was behind the pictures that are on my website, was to put everything in it that I could. And it paid off. I'm very, very proud of that.
I feel your very resourceful millennial attitude coming out. It's like, we've had to learn how to make these things work.
We've got to make them work. How are we going to do this? Because it's got to get done at the end of the day. And we're not bajillionaires. But yes, it is the resourcefulness. Some people call it scrappy. But yeah, That's the scrappiness is absolutely in this, and you can make luxury and be scrappy.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend to anyone listening, is that if you want to elevate your brand, take examples from brands that are elevated to say, okay, this is what I might need to do, or find people who can. 100%.
Yeah, those are great tips. So tell me, now that we're wrapping up here, what do you have in store for the future of Ilium Wing? Tell me, what are your plans and your dreams? What's going on with you moving forward?
Ooh, I am really excited right now. Like, I know sometimes when you ask people that and you hear interviews and people ask like, oh, it's just the future holds so much. But generally, I'm very excited. So what I'm doing is, I've got this piece that I'm making right now for a woman she is an influencer in every regard. It's not the intention to have an influencer campaign, just who do I respect and want to see in my pieces. So I'm finishing up a piece for her now. And can't wait to get that off to her, and want to see her do an unboxing, and her 150,000 followers will see it, and we'll see what happens after that. So that's amazing and unexpected, and I'm thankful. But also another thing that I am looking into and have an opportunity to come up is to work with stylists, to have my pieces sent to stylists to be placed in editorials or events or whatever. Because I do know that I need eyes, but I do know that I cannot afford PR. One thing that I have done is on my Ilium Wing Instagram page is that if I have pictures from the brand shoot, or of a piece, or me wearing a piece, I have looked up to see who are the stylists for some of my favorite celebrities, and I will tag them on that story, and I'll make the font super, super, super tiny and put it in like the corner. And then I'll go back a little bit later and see that that stylist has seen that picture. So it's an eye, it's a blip, but they've seen it. And so that's been really cool. I don't know why, like, people don't always see comments, and you don't want to like tag them always in the picture itself, but I can tag someone in a story, and that's getting eyes for the stylist, for the celebrities that I want to see my pieces in, or see in my pieces. So that's exciting. And so once I get this commission done, then that's going to be my next focus, is contacting stylists, because I may have a list of 20, but I only need one.
Yeah.
And every step for me has been focused. Let me just get one. If I can get one, then I can get two, but let me get one first. And then, the future, man, how can I say this? I think copycat brands would be great, because that means that it has been absorbed into the culture. Maybe I'm strange.
That's such an interesting perspective, Ama. I like that.
Well, I mean, I've thought about that. And if you hadn't asked and I hadn't have been so comfortable, I would have never said it. I'm not saying that I want somebody to take my logo and flip it, the other way. But waist beads are cultural, they're subcultural. Everyone wears rings, everyone wears necklaces, everyone wears earrings, everyone wears these, pieces, and they're designed in a million different ways. But waist beads have been worn for thousands of years all over the world, and they're pretty secret. They're worn under clothes. And so I would love to see them become more of like a public awareness. And if that means that other brands start making them too, or new brands come up and they're wearing them, then that means that it's being absorbed into the culture. And that's what I would love to see. Who knows what's going to happen? It may not, but that's what I think would be amazing, is to start seeing other people wear them and make them and elevate the art. Because art is for everybody.
That's definitely an attitude of abundance that shows not only that you're confident in what you're doing, but that you have generosity in
Hmm.
spirit and that you're just passionate about the idea of what you're doing. So I love all of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm gonna take that with me through the rest of my day.
Oh, I'm glad.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, it was such a pleasure talking to you today, Alma. I loved hearing all these stories and you gave me a lot of really great food for thought. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I have too. And I'm just really honored that you reached out to me. I really, really am. Again, I didn't think I was going to do a podcast interview. I just wanted to talk to jewelers. I was like,
I
oh,
love
you like
that.
shiny things too. So that was the intention, and it was very innocent. And things happen from that sometimes, and you are a part of that. You're an example of that. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Looking forward to more Clubhouse ateliers in the future.
Every Friday from 2 to 4 Eastern on Clubhouse.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I loved speaking to Ama about her experiences in the industry and about her jewelry brand Ilium Wing. If you'd love to learn more about her brand and her waist beads, you can visit iliumwing.com. That's ILIUMWING.com, or follow the brand on Instagram at Ilium Wing. And if you'd like to visit or join the atelier on Clubhouse, you can follow Ama on Clubhouse. That's at Ama McKinley, AMAMCKINLEY on Clubhouse, and then check out the casual meetup every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. As a reminder, my new book, Jewelry Marketing Joy, is available and ready to ship. If you would like to purchase it for a discounted price, free shipping included, visit joyjoya.com/book for all the information.